Call the meeting to order of the Jefferson Madison Regional Library Trust Board of Trustees. Do we have any remote participants today?
No remote participation today.
Okay, let's move on to the disposition of the minutes of the previous meeting. Do you have any corrections or inclusions for the minutes? All right, if there are no corrections or inclusions in the minutes, all those minutes as written, please say aye.
Aye.
Our next thing are announcements and public comments. You have any announcements?
I have an announcement. I would like to welcome to the JMRL Board of Trustees, Janelle Lynch, Charlottesville's newest trustee and board member. Janelle comes with a background in executive leadership, investor and stakeholder engagement and communications, with time spent as an operating partner for Lightship Capital, the founder and CEO of Executive Doula Agency, the vice president of the National Association of Investment Companies, among many other impressive accomplishments and roles. Currently, Janelle is the senior director at the Executive Leadership Council, and Janelle has settled in Charlottesville and raised her family here and was moved to apply for this seat through remembered conversations with former JMRL trustee Tamara Turner. So please welcome Janelle to the library board.
Welcome. Yeah. Thank you. Do we have any other announcements? Any comments from the public today?
If anybody online would like to make public comment, please use the Zoom raise hand function now. No public comments.
Having no public comments, we will move on to trustee continuing education with JMRL's notary services. I'd like to welcome you.
And just to give a little preamble here before Brittany and Krista and Ophelia get started, the goal today is to set the current stage for the board. The notary policy is up for discussion at the next policy committee meeting, so it will be looked at in August. The main questions on the table will be, does the board want to require this service by policy? And if so, what are the issues that are being faced to maintain it moving forward, how to address those? Okay, so these folks are going to, I'm going to share screen. Probably.
Up top.
Middle.
Up middle, thank you so much. Takes a village. And I'm going to make this go away. And then I'm going to stop talking.
Ready.
Hi there. Try not to block things. Hold up, Krista.
Let's continue.
Can everybody see? I'll come over here. There we go. So my name's Brittany Ambersberg. I am the Circulation Services Manager for JMRL. I directly supervise the front desk at Central Career Services. And another hat that I wear is I'm a notary. It's one of my favorites. It makes the day very interesting. So we're going to go through and provides different discussions about notary services. This is Ophelia Payne. She's a
branch manager at Louisa Library.
And I'm Krista Farrell. I'm the assistant library director in the Central Library branch manager. And I think I've probably been offering notary services the longest of the three of us for like 20 years now.
So we wanted to start with what a notary is and what a notary is not. We often do get asked questions that a lawyer should be answering, so we tell people we are not a lawyer. We are a notary public. And a notary public is an official appointed by a state government to serve the public as an impartial witness during notarizations. I often like to tell people, I'm just literally witnessing your signature. I'm acknowledging that you're here in front of me. You are who you say you are, and you are signing this document. Anything else?
I agree with Brittany. That's pretty much what we tell folks. A lot of times we do get questions, I usually just kind of glance over the document just to make sure that I'm not going to miss any signatures, but they want to sometimes ask you questions, and it's like, I'm sorry, you have to consult a lawyer
Yeah.
for this.
So this is what our current policy is. Free public notary public services are offered at all locations of JMRL. Library staff volunteer to provide this service. Please call ahead of your visit to check availability of a notary public. And in providing this service, library staff follow the Code of Virginia. So we are bound by the Code of Virginia. If you're a notary, you take an oath saying, you're going to follow this code. And these are the types of notarizations that you will do: acknowledgements, jurats, and oaths. So there are different types of notarial acts depending on what's required of you based on this document. As a notary, as Ophelia said, I like to scan the document before I start doing anything to know what the situation is, and what type of notary job, we have in front of us. And that's also important for when you're filling out your logbook. But you've got I would say the majority of the ones we do are acknowledgements or jurats, which is a combination of both, not necessarily just the oath.
Yeah, I mean, I think another important point is we don't have to read the document. Sometimes people think that we're going to look over the document. The document is really none of our business. It's really just we need to note what type of document it is. So we need to know that. And sometimes there is not a notary statement already on the document. And that's where it comes where we are not practicing law. So we tell them what their choices are, which is an acknowledgement, which is that I saw your ID and you're the person that signed this document. And the jurat is, I saw your ID, you're swearing to the truth of the document, and I watched you sign the document. So that's the big difference between the acknowledgement and the jurat.
The oath is just saying, I agree that what I'm saying is true and valid, basically.
Under penalty of perjury.
When you raise your hand. And everybody has to be in person when a document is notarized in Virginia. We do get, at least I get questions about that. Where like somebody is incarcerated and they need something notarized and they want to do it by phone. So
There is something called a virtual notary now, or an e-notary, but JMRL doesn't, none of us offer that.
So that's what I've recommended in those types of situations. Frequently notarized documents, and I do find that this is cyclical. So like right now we're getting ready for back to school. So there's shared housing documents, background checks that are happening. You get a lot of religious exemption forms this time of year for vaccines. But we're also getting in the last bit of summer vacation. So I'm also getting passport, cruise ship verifications and acknowledgements and stuff like that. Around the holidays, I do find that I'm doing more wills and power of attorney and stuff like that because people want to get that situated for the holidays and travel and stuff.
At election time, we do a lot of petitions to get people on the ballot. The other Friday, I did 18, which, he called ahead, which was a good thing. I knew he was coming, and then you set aside 20 or 30 minutes to do that because literally every single one has to be signed and certified in front of us.
And some documents are very time intensive and some are not. So if you have a walk-in appointment, sometimes that's how you can gauge it. Like if somebody comes in, it's a walk-in and they want their mortgage done, that might take more time and I might have to have them scheduled versus a background check.
We can tell by the document the number of sticky tabs.
Some documents cannot be notarized. We had a lot of people asking for I-9 forms to be notarized a little while ago. I feel like that's petered off, thankfully. It's like verification of employment. And like that you're a representative of that company, you would have to sign that, which is why we can. So, vital records, I've had people ask me to notarize their original birth certificate before. We will not do that. We'll do a certified true copy of your birth certificate. So we try to provide options when we can, but if there's just something we can't do. Witnesses. This comes up frequently, especially if people are new to the area and they don't realize this, but we don't provide witnesses for notary appointments. So that's one of the things I have my team ask when they're taking notary appointments. Does this document require it? Some people may want to ask staff to be their witnesses. You do not allow that. That's considered soliciting. And whether the document requires witnesses varies by the document. I have seen power of attorney that does not, and I have seen power of attorney that does. It just depends on which format they use. If the document requires two witnesses, it requires two witnesses unless it is stated the notary can be a witness. So oftentimes we can be a witness for something. It just depends on it.
And one of the reasons our trainer told us that you don't want just random people being your witnesses, because if the document winds up in court, you need to be able to locate this witness. And if they were just a random person, you might never be able to find them again. So someone who's a good friend of the family, they also can't be a party, a beneficiary of the document. So,
certain age, don't they? It can't be your child coming in with you to witness for you.
Yeah, exactly. And oftentimes I find that like people will bring their friends in to be their witnesses and then take them to lunch as a thank you after, so they can carry them with them downtown at our location. So this is an important thing to note. No one JMRL branch is the same with providing notary services. Some branches can accommodate walk-in requests, and some can only accommodate appointments. Some branches only notarize 30 days due to branch schedules. Some branches will choose to notarize certain documents only. And in 3 of our localities, only one JMRL branch is providing the only free notary service in the area, and that is Louisa, Crozet, and Green. So I wanted to kind of outline that for you all.
Green, you can also get it notarized at the administration department.
I think that's true in Louisa too.
Okay. I think I had talked to the notaries at these branches to kind of get a poll, and they said that with both of those places, a lot of people are turning notary requests away. So they kind of maybe they only feel like they're the only ones.
We get a lot of patrons, well, folks coming in, being sent to us from the banks. The banks won't notarize it. DMV will not. And even the court, even though we know there's a notary there, they will not do it. They'll send it to us. And we try to encourage appointments, but a lot of times it's walk-ins. And it does take a lot of time taken away from the desk to do appointment.
if you see the statistics, you'll see what I'm talking about.
I mean, and I was telling Tony this while we were walking in, we have seen an uptick at Central, I feel like, since the beginning of COVID. And it was anecdotally the most requested service while we were on lockdown. And I wondered why, till I did 8 divorces in one day with quarantine, everybody. But like, we do have lots of people who come in because their bank will only do certain documents and only if you're a client, or they have shuttered their downtown location. The courts frequently will send people to us too. And we're happy to help, but it may require an appointment. It just depends on what it is. Some scenarios that have occurred. Only one person is present for a joint document. You only notarize for the person in front of you. I've had about 3 occasions where like a spouse wants to notarize for both parties. The other party's not there because they're at work. And I'm like, well, I can only notarize for you because you're here. If the person cannot sign their name, an X will suffice as long as they understand what they're signing. And that is a big thing if you are a notary, making sure that the person that you're notarizing for understands what they're signing. What if the person's ID is expired? They need to be able to provide a valid ID. It is literally illegal for us to notarize something if a person has an illegal ID. What if a patron wants to have a birth certificate or other vital document notarized? Decline that notarization request, but I often do offer the option of certified copies. And what if somebody wants to give me money for their notarization? Well, we don't charge for this notary service, so notaries should decline payment, but if the patron wants to donate money to JMRL, they certainly can. So these are some stats. This is the number of notaries at each branch. And this is from a project we did where we took most notaries' logbooks to see what the stats were for these.
This is from the monthly reports. It's the next, you'll see, it's a different slide, yeah. But you can see Louisa, give him a little time to look at the numbers.
Yeah, you stay busy.
And honestly, Scottsville has more than I expected too. Wow, because they just have Anne.
It's partly a function of how many notaries are available. Like you would expect Northside to be a lot higher, but there's a limited number of notaries and a limited number of hours that they offer service. Where at Central, we have more hours that we're open and we have more notaries. And then at Louisa too, they have 4 notaries. But even with 4 notaries and the number of hours you're open, that's an amazing amount.
And a lot of times we have folks wanting to have something done on a Saturday, and I don't have a notary working every Saturday. So that's something that we can't offer on a Saturday. That's why we tell them to call ahead of time. Don't just assume that there's going to be a notary available that day.
And these are some notary stats. We also have, just put that in.
A visual.
Photograph.
Yeah.
The same.
I like it.
Same. Yep. Prettier.
And so this is the in-house data project I was talking about. We kind of looked at everybody's books to see 84% of notarizations were for local residents. Of that 84 in area, 58% of them had cards. The other 532 in area users did not have cards, but were presumably eligible for one. And most out of area notarizations were for people without cards. That's just kind of a snapshot. Of the 94 library systems in Virginia, 48 of them offer notary service. 21 of them do not. 25 of them did not respond to the state library's questionnaire.
That's pretty common for this.
They should get a demerit or something. They'll answer.
Of the 48 libraries responding that they offer notary service, 5 charge for the service, 8 require appointments, and no library is currently reporting offering additional compensation for notarizations, but most cover costs for supplies and training. The state sets the rate. It's $10 per seal that may be charged per the state. And, you know, a lot of patrons are discovering JMRL's notary services through various ways. A lot of people just do a Google search and go, where do I find a notary? We pop up pretty readily. Sarah, Elizabeth, and I tested this. We do pop up pretty readily. Social media, walk-in, and we'll call a branch. Referrals from the banks, courts, UPS is another one we haven't mentioned yet, and word of mouth. And repeat customers. I have found that if somebody you've notarized before sees you out of the desk and they want something notarized, they will come straight to you, whether they made an appointment or not. And sometimes you have to set that boundary. And some site stats. So in April, we embarked on a project to create a notary request form to see whether patrons would like it. So what you're seeing here, kind of this spike to our website, to the notary page since the notary form was created. But it's been pretty consistent overall.
Yeah, and we get an email, the central notaries, for instance, we get an email every time someone puts a request in. We all see it, and then we see who responds. Essentials is obviously the most heavily utilized right now, but part of that is because the reference staff and other staff are telling people, fill the form. They're referring them to the form more than probably some of the other branches.
Yeah, so you can kind of see the total since the form's creation too.
That's since April.
Yeah. So people do frequently ask us if we have training. We do. We use the Bryce Hall is a wonderful trainer. She is the, I guess, CEO of Virginia Notary Classes. So we all get training with Bryce before we're let loose notarizing documents with patrons. After training, JMRL Notary selects seals, notary books, and additional equipment that may need to be purchased. When I first started notarizing, I got a bag to put all my stuff in. And that was one of those things I considered that to be additional equipment. Some people like to use shoe boxes for their notary equipment or what have you. And all notary materials and application fees for JMRL notaries are paid for by JMRL. So you do have to pay to submit the application. So one thing we do notarize is one of my favorites because I find it to be very meta. It's a notary application to be a notary.
Yeah.
Welcome to the club. And then sometimes they do ask questions. And then you also have to pay for your seal and stuff like that.
And then when you go to the court to take the oath, they charge $10 for that too. The other point I wanted to make about Bryce is She used to do in-person training in the Swanson room. This was 10, 15 years ago. Now she offers classes online regularly that include a notebook and everything. But the other thing that's been really helpful is that she sends out a newsletter. So if there's updates, we get that. And she also, if someone has a question, one of the notaries at JMRL has a question, I can email her or chat her or whatever and say, hey, this question came through. It might be about a document in a foreign language, or it might be, something we've never seen before. She will tell us what she would do in this case, which is really helpful because, she's not charging us each time we ask a question. She's just helping us because she trained us and we paid her when she trained us, but I think she just likes to know that we're doing the right thing.
Yes, she's a wonderful resource.
I think one thing to interject here is to make it clear to the board that when somebody becomes a notary at JMRL, the state is authorizing them to become a notary. They're not a notary for JMRL, they are a notary. So they can go out and notarize on their own as much as they like. JMRL is paying for this equipment, but they're not required to notarize for JMRL if they go through this process. And also, we cannot stop them from being a notary in the world. They're a notary for the state of Virginia, not for the library.
But most of us leave our stuff at work. I don't take my bag home with me every night,
See you setting up those little stands like Lucy had.
My husband would kill me. I said, I'll put a sign in the door of the house, so it's available.
So an important reminder here, JMRL and all Virginia notaries can refuse to do any notarization they are uncomfortable with for whatever reason. There does not need to be a legal reason to do so. So there's been a few changes this year. We must keep records of notarial acts now, so we have to keep a journal. That's one of those things you can purchase, and that's something that the library will pay for if you're a notary that works JMRL. Before that was not required, but it was considered best practice. And the second change is you must show proof of commission to buy a seal, which, to me that makes sense because it's a seal. But yeah, so when you're purchasing a seal, they do expire if you have the expiration date of your commission on your seal. So when you go to purchase a new one, you need to show verification of that.
Yeah, and the journals they're under our records retention policy, but in 20, knock on wood, in 20 years or however long I've been a notary, I've never been asked to produce my journal in a court. But that is what Bryce has said, best practice, because we could be called into a court or law to say, well, did this person really sign this? Does this signature match? What kind of ID did they show? So we at least have that record.
So you do take that serious. And sometimes, the patron is kind of impatient because it might take longer to fill out the logbook than it does to do the notarization. But it's important to keep yourself protected that way. So, some questions to consider. Does JMRL need a notary policy? If so, does it need to continue to state that notary service is free for all locations? Should library card accounts be required for notarizations? What if no staff volunteer to be a notary at any specific location? And are there additional incentives for JMRL staff to become notaries? Because it is voluntary. I mean, nobody should feel pressured to become a notary. It can be a lot of extra time and extra work. So just some things to consider. Thank you so much. Any questions?
Do you have to renew, have a refresher course or anything? How often is that?
So you do have to get your commission renewed. You don't necessarily have to take a refresher course.
Yeah, it's every 4 years. Your notary is good for 4 years. One other new requirement is training, though. I think we are grandfathered in with the new law, but new notaries have to go through training. But we've always done that for our training, and for our notaries, we've always had. I don't know what we'll do. I mean, we'll find somebody else when Bryce stops doing it, but pretty much all JMRL notaries have been trained through Bryce.
I just say I've used the notary service in Scottsville multiple times, and it's just a really nice thing to have, to not have to drive up to Charlottesville, to not, I looked into the e-services and it's expensive, and I didn't want to go through that. And I feel like it fits with the library brand. Not only just it's offering a valuable service to the community that's obviously a lot of people are taking advantage of, and helping just reduce that burden of costs. It just keeps growing for everyone. But it also fits and it sort of fits nicely with the library, so one of the most kind of key things of sort of public library brand is trust. And it really seems to fit with that. It's like folks are trusting you to sign in the right places, and you're looking at confidential documents that they wouldn't want anyone to necessarily see or know about. And so I think it's a great service.
Yeah, when we first started offering it years ago, and David was a notary way back when, one of the reasons we did it was it brought people into the library. And then once they come into the library, they see things that they may not realize that the library offers. And a lot of times I do a lot of the notaries up on the third floor. And when they ask, I'll ask, do you have a library card? Well, have you signed up for summer reading? Because sometimes they have their kids with them. So, and then sometimes they're all like, yeah, we already signed up. We've done all this. So, but when we first started offering it, I think it was just another service that would get people into the library, and hopefully they would then, use the library services. But we also get people who are in because they're settling their parents' estate and they're here from California or Vermont or wherever, and they desperately need a notary. And that's what they're doing. And in some cases they would be willing to pay, like they've offered, because they realize, this is a service. So, I mean, that's part of the discussion, I think, when we discuss the policy.
And what happens when a document comes in that's in a form? Do you have to get a translator, or it's only the signature that you're?
Right. We'll ask what kind of document is this?
Yeah.
Sometimes, I don't know. We do so many passport, a lot of, Leland, right, Abby had a really complicated Indian passport renewal type of thing. But we, sometimes it's a real estate thing. Sometimes it's a, estate or something. Yeah. We just need to know what type of document this is. Right. And then I will note that the document was in Spanish or German or.
Yeah.
I have a guy that comes from Scandinavia every year, and it's something related to his pension. And each year he needs to have someone say that he's really still alive. Yeah. And so each year when he comes back, I'm like, yay, you're still there. I mean, but you can see he's getting a pension from a foreign country, so they want to make sure that this guy is really still, alive.
Yeah.
At Central, we do get a fair amount of international documents. I did a lot of, there was a family that's traveling to India. They have citizenship in India, but this information was for their children that are going there for the first time. So, you're able to kind of tell where they need to sign, and they tell you and work it out a lot of the time. Yeah. But if you don't, it's one of those situations where if you don't feel comfortable doing that, or if you need another notary to help you with it, that's where you can.
And it's also another thing to consider. We don't charge for this service. So sometimes we will say, we're gonna help you the best we can. If for some reason you need to come back, the fee's the same. It's still free. So it's like a lot of things. It's like our meeting rooms. Of course I diverge. But like if you pay for a service, then your level of expectations change.
Yeah.
We do the best we can, and then it's appreciated, I think, and that we're doing it within the information and our training that we have. But if for some reason something we got signed in the wrong spot, or they forgot to put this here, or whatever, just come back.
You see people at very difficult points in their lives, and you're helping them, and they remember that. As a notary, I do find out they're feeling helpful on that way. I helped somebody with their adoption, for example, and they came back and gave me my plant collection. So, I helped them with something that was very important to them. But yeah, I mean, it's a good example of how we're there for everybody in any moment that we can.
And to answer your question though, like all they're really doing is saying you or you signing.
And you were signing.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. And you can take a note saying you're swearing it's true. We don't have to understand what you're swearing to, just you swearing under penalty of perjury that it's true.
I guess the concern that I have, and I kind of heard it, with like how much does this take away from the other duties you have in the library? And if, you've got, you're saying people out of area or something, and if we've just got like the numbers that maybe Louisa is seeing, and these are people that are not living in Louisa, it feels like, maybe, is there some way to prioritize, or is there some way, just something, I don't know, it just feels like a lot of pressure on your staff specifically.
It can be, most times it's either two of us that are there, and if we both at the desk, if someone comes in for a notary, you're leaving your colleague there at the desk. And sometimes it can be up to 10 minutes. It depends on how complicated the document is. A few weeks ago, I had a walk-in, and it took me about 10 minutes, and there were two other people waiting, because when I turned, there was another person sitting in a chair. So I ended up sitting there at the table for at least 30 minutes because I had back-to-back notaries, and it took me away from the desk. And it does the same thing for my staff too.
And it's hard to extricate yourself in that situation because you've already done the first one. You're going to tell the other two people that, you know, yeah.
Yeah. It's like, come on, next.
I wonder if there would be some way of sort of saying that you had to be staffed to a certain amount at Louisa, and those are when the appointments are open. I mean, I know the tendency is to be like, whenever you all are available, or you're trying to be really kind, but I just wonder if there's a way to.
So what we started doing, because we were getting so many, as you could see from the numbers there, that we put up a daily schedule, and then we would mark out our availability. We would say, okay, I have a notary here from 10 to 3. There's nobody here after 5 o'clock. And so when we get phone calls, we'll put those folks down. I mean, it works fine for phone calls, but so many of our folks are just walk-ins. And so it's hard to gauge. Then it's like, we just do it. So
Looks like if there was some way, some other organization.
Every now and then I'll see a post on Facebook, and it's probably when the wave comes, it's like, oh, where can I get this document notarized? And you got 50 people that see the same post, and they're looking for a notary. It's like, oh, I can go to the library. Here they are.
Is there,
So
there's no other.
there's mobile notaries that are out there, and other services that are out there. It's just your banks are not doing it, as they've said. The courts are.
And you're paying for it. Mobile
A lot of people you're paying.
notaries you
A
pay for.
mobile, you're going to pay for them to come to your house or meet you at a neutral location to sign your documents. So.
Yeah.
So to Meredith's point, I think a little bit what I want the board to engage on after the policy committee starts with this are these types of issues, and whether or not requiring a library card is something that this board would be interested in doing. I know we floated this a few years ago. I floated it with staff. Staff were adamantly not interested in that, because it is in a lot of views, it's a barrier to service. But when we talked to Louisa County about it, they said very clearly, well, clearly you should only do this for people who live in the JMRL service area and have a library card to use library services. So I think there's a big discussion to be had here, and I don't know if there's a right answer or a wrong answer, but this is today just kind of setting the stage. Here's where we are right now, and then these are the big conversations to be had over the next few months.
Follow-up question. Could the different branches have different policies?
Well, we kind of alluded to that in
Procedures, sorry.
Sure.
We do.
Yeah, we do. You do.
We have that. I think that's the current reality, that like you can walk into Louisa where there are 4 notaries on staff, but you can't walk into Scottsville where there's only 1. Like if that person is not there, then there is no notarizing that day.
And Jose only does notarizations like 2 times a week for a specific block that they have blocked out, and they communicate that to patrons who require it. And only certain types of jobs.
I just meant that if Louisa wanted to say, you can only do this. Pascal said.
I think the policy itself says every branch offers free public library service. I mean, free public notary service. So I think we would have to tweak the language there to allow for that type of latitude, basically. I'm not opposed to that, but if the policy, I think.
So you would add 2 library card holders.
Or, see like the meeting room policy. We have a meeting room policy, and then there's procedures that are different per location because they might have different equipment or different, size constraints or whatnot. So certainly there's precedent for having different procedures for the same service that looks different at different branches.
So like, seems like it would be reasonable to, and I know the policy committee can talk about it, but just to, right, to sort of say, to have, for it to be free, you need to have a library card. Come in with, if you live in the area and you don't have a library card, great, we'll sign you up for a library card right now and then do it for free. And if you're from out of town, it's a nominal fee of $5 or $10, like, you know.
No, he's saying it could be a policy.
Oh,
It could be a policy.
No, I'm saying like
You
that,
have to get an out of area card,
something
which
like
is.
that.
Which is a $40.
Like that.
Or you could just say it's the $10 fee if you don't have a card and you don't have to get one that's out of area or, so, but yes, I'm also thinking along the lines of some of these variations. The main thing I would like to understand, what I think what I'm coming away with is, because I'm going to be leading the policy committee's discussion on this. And by the way, David, let's send this slides in advance to the policy committee. Is the general consensus that JMRL should offer this service in general? And I think I'm hearing yes. If I thought I heard a lot of, hey, this doesn't sound like it's worthwhile or not aligned with our mission or whatever, then that would be a different discussion within policy, but I'm just putting it on the table. I think I'm hearing that sounds like it is something we want to offer in some form, and we'll, hammer out the wrinkles and bring it based on this conversation and bring it back for,
So just kind of the start the discussion. I would suggest as a notary, as you guys talk about the policy, making sure you're engaging with staff about it, as well as notaries.
I
Just
would
to,
definitely like to know,
Yeah.
especially on Louisa, what this notary staff, what their think a better policy would be. That would really be.
because like I said, sometimes it would be tricky. It would take longer to fill out, to get the patron to get the card application than to just do the notary. And I know a lot of notaries do feel that way, and a lot of staff do, which is why it was a tough discussion before, but I'm open to all of the options, so.
and usually when we have policy discussions that are engaged with sort of staff intensive issues, we do include staff in the meetings, and I assume David's going to do that. So
One point about that is that usually we have somebody who is the person in charge in staff of that. We do not have that for notarizations. We have these three lovely individuals who spend a lot of time and experience and just have more knowledge about this than anybody else, but there is no notary czar for JMRL. So that's something we could also.
One thing that we did talk about, though, is making sure that this presentation, besides being shared with the library board, is shared with the notaries, so that they know that this discussion is happening, and if they have feedback, that might be the time. The notaries maybe,
Feedback would be encouraged.
yeah.
One thing, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
One thing, my staff person who works on Saturday, she had asked me if we could not do notaries on Saturdays, because it's just she's the only notary, and then there's one other staff person. So I told her that's something that we would discuss.
We could do that now
Yeah.
procedurally.
Yeah, because she said it's really too much
That makes sense to
with
me.
her being the only notary on Saturdays.
Call me.
I will, okay.
And we're sending them to another branch, because we've also run into the problem, people work Monday through Friday. They want to come evenings and weekends. That's the only time they can get something notarized. So I know at Central, we do notaries that other branches might not do because they just don't have the availability. And I'm sensitive to people that have to work during the week, and the only time they can get a notary is the night and on the weekends.
My
So
concern there would be somebody assuming they could get the same drop-in service and then driving
Call-
45
exactly.
minutes
call ahead.
into
Because
Charlotte.
that is the other issue that comes up, I think, that we would all agree. We want this to be a positive customer service experience, and which is why, we don't turn people away, which is why we try to accommodate, which is why, if we start putting barriers in there, then it's more area for negative customer experiences for both the staff person and the patron.
Each branch have the schedule of notaries of the other branches, for instance, like if somebody calls.
No, we don't. That's a good point.
So-and-so such has it on this particular day.
Well, we always, even when you're sending someone to another branch to pick up a book that's supposed to be on the shelf, we say call ahead to make sure that we're not sending someone from Central to North Side or Central to Gordon or vice versa to find parking. And then they get inside and the book's not there because we didn't call it. So again, that's just an internal customer service issue to make sure that you let somebody know or ascertain that there's really someone there that can help them before you send them over there.
We do have a notary group chat as well as a notary roundtable, so we will discuss things that crop up and how we can make sure we're providing the best service possible in that way.
So do you want to try using the form a little more and see if maybe you could more information on that than just, like, what library would you like to, what library would you like to go to? Please note Louisa does not do notaries on Saturday or whatever. Like you could maybe put more info if you had. Share.
You could, is it on the website?
Mhm.
The-
Yeah, we could,
And
yeah.
what the different branch notary.
Yeah, it's a link in the presentation, so you can look at it, when it's shared, but yeah, there's a form on the website.
Yeah, so you can select your branch and explain what you're getting notarized, and we're recommending and saying like 3 or 4 different times during the form process that the patron wait until they hear back from a notary to schedule the appointment instead of just showing up and thinking that.
Don't assume submitting the form is an appointment.
Excellent thing for our social media department to kind of get something that can go out on the social media to
Yeah, we
advertise and to share that because that's not seen you said you just started in April, so.
Yeah, it was kind of a soft launch, but it's been up to me. It's been successful.
Yeah, there was some discussion about requiring that moving forward, and the branch managers talked about it and decided, well, let's try this and see how well it gets adopted. And to Krista's point, people chat or call into the central reference department to ask about notaries all the time, and they've done a good job of saying your best way to get this done in an orderly fashion is to fill out this form. So, well, thank you 3 also for being notaries, for being usually the top 3 notaries we have. Maybe Sadie now is in the top 3.
Yeah, at Central, it's Brittany for sure. Like we also have it at Central, like a chart where we can see who's done the most for the year. It's always Brittany. But yeah, Louisa wins overall by far, considering the.
Ophelia wins.
Yeah. She's
the JMRL champ.
Yes, she is.
okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Right. Moving along to committee assignments and report. Everybody's had a chance to review the documents that were sent out with the changes with Alita filling my shoes and personnel. And then our new member, Janelle, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well.
Joining the policy committee. Does anybody have any questions or problems with that? No? All right.
We'll say, Randy, Krista pointed out to me today that on the 5-year plan, there's Kayla Payne as the staff member representative who no longer is with JMRL. So when we update this, we'll get that fixed as well. She works for the city of
Okay.
Charlottesville now.
And we'll cross her off my list.
There's what? It's a gratuitous comma at the end of that same line that it.
For more people to join our committee.
That's because we're putting somebody else at the end.
That's right. Exactly.
It's the Cambridge comma.
Ah.
Well-known cousin to the Oxford.
Thank you.
Like a dot.
All right. Moving on to old business, we have a second reading and potential vote on removal of policies. Mike?
Okay, we talked through this as a first reading at the last meeting, and this represents a review of a number of sort of conceptually related policies dealing with sort of governance and organization. And we proposed to essentially consolidate those, pulling out sort of highlight various some of it was we decided was very procedural, and so some are sort of pushed off to procedure. Some are sort of extra detail that we kind of simplified, and we kind of retain the key point. So and those have been consolidated into one draft of board governance, which is 1.2, which you see on page 15 of your printed handouts. And then as part of that, one little subsection was then not included in that consolidated 1.2, but was moved to consolidate the public hearings policy into the existing public comments. So that's what you're seeing on page 13 and 14 of your printed notes. We did have one, go to page 15, which is the draft of 1.2, David, right where you are. There have been some, based on the discussion at last month's meeting, there were some wording tweaks since last month's version. And so I think those do warrant sort of a specific call out here. The main one is the third bullet point or the first of the red bullet points that's on the screen now. This was just sort of some feedback from last month's meeting that maybe we should be a little more explicit about what JMRL does to publicize. Well, the idea that meetings are open, and then how can you find out about the meetings? That's a little more detailed than added here for that draft. I think the other three red were bullets that were the same wording from last month, but they've just been reorganized because it flowed a little better. To those around. And I think that's probably what I would suggest as just in terms of what we look at on the screen and read, but open for review, comment, questions, discussion.
I had suggested that in that second bullet point, it says generally these board meetings are live stream recorded, blah, 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 that we just add at JMRL.org. So people know if they go to if they go to the website, that's where they'll find these live stream links.
I misunderstood. I'm sorry. When you sent that email, I thought you meant the previous one. So I did add in here a link that goes to the JMRL.org, but you're talking about here, generally live reports.
Just so people know.
Yeah, the streaming is actually not, it's technical, but none of it's happening on JMRL.org. The streaming's happening on Zoom and the recordings are happening on YouTube. You can access them all from JMRL.org.
Yeah, that's all I meant.
That's all
You
you
can access.
So something like linked from might be maybe just parentheses after public viewing, linked from JMRL.
Oh, can I?
Right.
Oh, right. That suggestion actually came in after the handouts were made. So yeah, the solution was just to add a URL. Here's where you can find all that stuff. Sorry.
Okay.
I was late.
So this is the latest and greatest of what's being proposed for adoption today.
The only other thing, Mike, was the question about what not to say and committees. Do you want to have that discussion?
Yeah, please recap what that.
So one conversation was in the first of the red there, it says library board meetings, and the suggestion was perhaps to add and committees are open to the public in person or virtually. And that generally is true at JMRL. Any committee of the board that has at least 2 members of the board of trustees becomes a public meeting. And generally, since the president is an ex officio member of every committee meeting, that means that even if there were only 2 scheduled to be there, the president's allowed to show up at any time. And if that were to happen, it becomes a public meeting. So we generally always advertise them, always record them, always make them available for the public. But we wouldn't necessarily have to, and there might be scenarios in which they wouldn't be. So the language there just says library board meetings and doesn't refer to committees at all. And there was some conversation by the policy committee about whether or not that should happen.
So just if it doesn't say committees here, it doesn't mean you can't have them open.
Correct.
It just means, are we required to do that in every instance?
Correct.
And based on sort of your research, we just had to leave a degree of freedom there.
Right. The library board is always required to be open to the public. We have not had, in my 8 years of tenure, we have not had a committee that has not followed those, but there could be a scenario in which there.
I think it may not be just be open to the public, but it would be the virtually. The open public would be required because based on the membership that
Yeah.
we talked about, but the stream in some case, but we have been doing that as a practice as well. So advent of Zoom, basically.
I like this as is, but I did want to make sure that
If there's a committee meeting that does fall into the library board meeting, into being recorded, it is located on the website. It's the same spot as this. So
under like 4.
I think that's all.
Although I don't think you retain the committee meetings in on that webpage right now.
We don't maintain links to them, but
past committee meetings.
they're all still in the same playlist in YouTube.
Yeah.
They're all there.
Yeah. It's not linked on.
It's just not right. That turns over more quickly than the board ones.
Okay, so this is a agenda item to actually vote on later in the meeting. I think, did not? Oh, it says potential.
Second reading, potential vote.
I'll turn it over to the president to continue.
Anyone have any discussion or want to make a motion for a vote?
I did provide, because this is fairly complicated. There are 3 separate potential motions there to help guide the board. Because we're removing a set, and then we're adopting a new version of 1.2, and then we're amending the public comments to add the public hearing information.
I'll do the first reading. I move that JMRL remove policy 22 Jefferson, Mass. Regional Library Board of Trustees, 1.22 board goals and planning, 1.26 procedures at board meetings, 1.262 public hearings, 1.27 board meeting minutes, and 1.28 policy annual changes.
I need a second, or is it all in favor?
Aye. Great. I'll do a second. I move that JMRL adopt the new policy 1.2 JMRL board governance as presented.
All in favor?
Aye.
Alright.
On to number 3. I move that JMRL accept the changes to policy. Public comment at library board meetings as presented.
All in favor?
Aye.
Alright. Moving on to new business, annual review of these 2 employee handbook.
So if most of the board who were here last December, I think, or January, I can't remember, I did a CE that was a review of changes to the employee handbook at JMRL that had happened since the last time the board had endorsed it. And the board's suggestion at that point was to add this to the annual calendar of board activities. So I've done that for your board budget and meetings timeline, and it's going to be in July every year. So this is just following up from that. Not much has changed since you got the full, here's everything that had changed in the last few years. And in fact, it was very minor. There was one adding the word procedures to the header that was before that disciplinary action. It's now disciplinary action procedures. Change the board endorsement date after the board endorsed this. At that point, change the reference on page 20 from safe child policy to safe child procedure to reflect updates that happened to those 2 documents where the procedure got longer and the policy got shorter. And then added a missing period to the end of a sentence for Tony. This is just for your information. I think that if the board wanted to endorse again, that's fine. I didn't put the whole thing up here for an endorsement. You just endorsed it in December or January, but just get on this schedule of once a year looking at things that have changed.
Do you think from a process standpoint, we don't need to endorse it every year, but every couple of years? Every 3 years or what have you. These are de minimis, so. But when it gets re-endorsed, I wouldn't put the whole thing in meeting handouts, but maybe an email in advance. Hey, here's your internal link to look at the whole thing. Because if I were endorsing it, I would want to be able to remind myself in context everything I'm looking at. And for some people, it might be new. They might not have looked at it at all.
think that's what we did in the fall, winter, is
Yeah.
that I gave a CE and then, the board asked to, can we see it, and shared it all out, and then there was a vote the next month.
Right.
And endorsement the next.
So I would propose that happen every couple of years at least. And it's fine for this year. I don't think it needs to be.
Great.
Moving along. Potential motion to accept additional state aid funding.
I give a little context. So just last month in June, you all passed JMRL's fiscal year 27 budget before the state had finalized their budget, this is one of the later years we've ever had for that. And the final budget from the state was an increase in JMRL's share. So it's, that the entire state aid went up and JMRL's portion of that went up by the amount listed here, $56,000. So my proposal is to add this to the books and materials budget, which traditionally JMRL has used the majority of state aid for. So at any rate, this at some point, since this came outside of your own budget schedule, we just need the board to adopt.
Wasn't in the budget,
It was not in the JMRL fiscal year 27.
so this is in addition to the budget.
Right. So when the state finalized their budget, our number was whatever was in our budget plus this
Plus
amount.
Which fortunately was a larger number.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, on the other one, there was good inclinations that it was going to be something similar. Larger numbers. Weren't shocked.
I'll do it. I move that JMRL accept the Library of Virginia's additional state aid funding of $56,000 for 27 and authorize the expenditure of that funding for library materials.
All in favor?
Aye.
Library Director's report. David.
Okay, thank you. Just to keep the board up to date, so sometime this week, I need to look at my calendar, Martha and I are going to take a field trip, joining the Camille Thompson and the Bookmobile staff on a drive throughout Greene County to scout potential stops for the new route that's reaching Greene County this year. This is the first time we've been in Greene County in many, many years with the Bookmobile. Hoping to launch the service in September. That's a stretch goal, but hopefully we'll get there. The current projected stops are based on feedback from Greene County residents from a survey that has been run out of the library. I'll be reporting back to the library board on stops and dates and times when this is finalized. So what we're doing this week is largely to go to places and make sure that they have the coverage required for the vehicle and the handicapped accessibility needs, and then other amenities like, are there people here? Is there hopefully a restroom? Is there Wi-Fi? Is there a signal? Things like that.
How often will the book?
I think it's going to be same as Nelson and Louisa's. It'll be 8 total stops a month. It's going to have to, because of the nature of what we're doing, it's going to have to be late afternoon, evening stops during the week. So I think we're looking at a bunch of different, likely it's going to be like Tuesday, Wednesday afternoons, going to do some of them. Luckily, they're based here, so they're a little bit closer to Greene County than they are to Nelson and Louisa. So they can kind of go from here towards the end of the day.
Curious, how's the vehicle doing and what's the?
It's currently at a shop. As it has been for 33% of the time in the last 2 years. So it is reaching a crisis level for the vehicle itself. When the Friends of the Library Board, I'll bring more information to this when we've got a more complete picture, but the Friends of the Library Board at their June meeting voted to give $100,000 to the Bookmobile Fund at the CACF to start funding for a new vehicle, which we're estimating between $250,000 and $300,000. And this week, when the CACF advisory committee meets, they're going to be discussing that funding and potentially more funding to make up the rest of that. So I think I've mentioned to this board that went from we were hoping to budget and plan for this in fiscal year 28 to it's going to have to happen sooner rather.
It sounds like it possibly could happen pretty soon.
If it takes a while to retrofit.
The Nelson vehicle took 2 years to approve. Hopefully we're past that. That was when the chassis was in competition with other, like every Amazon truck used the same body, so it took 2 years to get it.
Yeah.
This hopefully won't take that long, but it is a competitive procurement process that, we'll have to work with the city of Charlottesville does our procurement and fleet maintenance. So we'll work with them on what are the things we need, send it out to bid, get bids back, and then have it get back. It still could be a while.
Imagine that we sold a vehicle before its end of life and replaced it kind of prospectively, what is the resale value or residual value that we could get?
It's funny you should mention that because on Facebook Marketplace 2 weeks ago, there was a used bookmobile for sale. Was that Louisiana, I think, somewhere like
I
that?
can't remember. Yeah.
Volunteer to go fetching.
I sent it to David. I said, hey, look, we can solve all our problems here. There were no bids on that thing.
Right. Well, at some price, there's a value, right? So
There's a value.
for $1, somebody might want it.
I think most, most used bookmobiles are in the same boat as ours, like.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I don't, so ours will go through the surplus property. Thank you very much. We'll auction it and bid it, and we will see the proceeds from that at the end of this. I don't expect tremendous stop on it.
Because we've waited until it's,
Well, and
it's life expectancy is low.
it's also got shelding.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions about that? I've mentioned to the board that JMRL is participating in the AI for VA project that the Chamber of Commerce brought to our attention. So just an update on that. JMRL staff are meeting with the project team tomorrow to get a presentation on their findings. If you recall, this is a program that paired local organizations with University of Virginia students to work on projects to use AI to optimize and streamline processes. This was advertised at the Chamber of Commerce. JMRL applied and was accepted to look at a process for how AI could help to save time on JMRL's program calendar data entry. So I'll report the findings to the board once staff have received and digested them. We're getting their final results. And then also to update, last month I mentioned talking about the Central Library renovation project, some concerns that the moving and rental of space for our operations and for public library service for Charlottesville, basically, would be something that would not be covered by the project, the $20 million project between Charlottesville and Albemarle to renovate the Central Library. So Krista and I met with the project managers and facilities management team from the city of Charlottesville. We reached an understanding that the responsibility for cost for renting operational space is going to be a project cost, which is good news and allays some concerns that I brought to the board last month. But we also talked about how those costs cut into the available funds for the project itself. So yes, it's good that there is funding there, that they could help rent space for services during that year or more. But it means that funding is now taken off the top there. So Trustee Hemingway and I met to discuss, and we also met with Jane Kulo from the Friends Board to begin organizing a fundraising group to explore all options for meeting these needs. The city also confirmed that they've begun work on the request for proposal for architecture and engineering services, which was funded for this fiscal year. And just before this meeting, I saw a finalized MOU between the city and the county, which they've been working on about who's going to do project management. Even though the end result was known all along, the city of Charlottesville was going to do project management. They had to reach an actual agreement about it.
Still took 2 months.
It got finalized and signed on both ends today. Okay, just a few more things. An update on fine-free JMRL. So not a lot of complaints about people not having fines anymore. I did reach out to branch managers to see what kind of feedback they're getting. And I think the first one summed it up: pleasant, mild surprise. That seems to be the reaction that most people gave. Maybe the information was so well communicated ahead of time that all the feedback came before we started. I like that. We've had positive comments and a few questions asking for clarity about the purpose and the details. Some concerns for funding in general, but not necessarily in a negative way. New library card patrons are largely excited to hear about no fines on regular items. We've had a few patrons who are prepared to pay a fine when they return an item, and then pleasantly surprised upon learning there's no fine. Change was well communicated. Most of the discourse came before it went into effect. From Louisa, one patron was upset we were now imposing fines on special items such as kits and Wi-Fi hotspots checked out on juvenile cards, which had not been the case before. We normalized those so that those things that now remain with fines are fines for all cards. Parents stated that should have been clear that this was changing, and she could have returned the items on time otherwise. So that's good feedback. Second patron was primarily concerned about how the library plans to make up for loss of revenue. That's the main thing that I've heard. It has been, where's the money gonna come from? So as we said, leading up to July 1, my goal right now, we're still collecting data that we established baseline data for a year on the 5 metrics that the working group came up with. 6 months into this, I'll give an update to the board that here's what's changed on those. Here's where the needle needed moved again. Briefly, summer reading update. Last year, there was a 350% increase in signups over the year before. So we're leveling out a little bit this year. It's not the same 300% increase, but still great participation. About 7,000 people have signed up over all age groups. Increases at the Bookmobile, Green, Louisa, Nelson, and Scottsville. So all the places that have seen more signups have been outside Charlottesville, Albemarle, which I thought was interesting. We'll get the full report when all is said and done from our children's services and young adult librarians to come in. And then finally, just so that the board knows that the budget infographic for fiscal year 27 is up and posted. It's on our webpage now. If you recall, this was a strategic plan goal that we had a while ago, and Trustee Powers really helped develop this, the look and feel of the Sankey chart here. And I think we managed to do it this year without expertise from the outside. So at any rate, it looks just the same as last year. The numbers have been updated, but it's available under the budget information for JMRL for you all to use as well when you're talking to members of the public or to elected officials about JMRL services. And that is all I have to report today.
Is there any other matters? Future agenda items for August meeting?
Policy committee report.
Maybe a committee report, if we get it.
We need to schedule one.
Yeah, potentially if we get a meeting scheduled in the next 4 weeks.
We'll report back on the CACF advisory committee.
We have a continuing ed.
I don't have one planned, but I also haven't had a chance to talk to the staff yet. I have to look at my notes to see if there have been some requests for some AI ones that if it's ready by then great. Okay.
Just to remind, it is going to be August 24th here at Northside. I know where I've got to be.
All right, policy committee meets ahead of that.
Personnel would be until September, correct?
The earliest, yeah.
Great. Can I have a motion to adjourn? Do I need a motion to adjourn?
Sure.
I move that we adjourn.
All in favor?
Thank you. Great job, President and Vice President.
Thank you.
Yes.